Good morning, mobsters. It is Sunday. It is like 80 something degrees out. Headed over to put some gas in the boat and hopefully take it out for probably one of our last little trips of the season, which we barely got to use it this season at all. It spent the majority of the summer in the shop. So like everybody says, and I think I've said it before, don't buy a boat, get a friend with a boat. So we're actually supposed to get a cold front here in the next day or so, which even for Florida, a cold front's not much of a cold front, but it still takes some of the fun out of boating. So headed over, gonna do that. And I think something else I'm gonna do in today's video is I was contacted by a college student who has to do like a paper revolving around law enforcement. And so there's a questionnaire. I think there's like 12 questions on it. So I think what I'm gonna do over the course of our day hanging out, I'm gonna answer those questions for her and we'll turn it into a video. Maybe I'll answer some questions for the rest of you guys that you've been thinking. So let's see. All right, round two of gas. That's one thing. If you can avoid getting gas on the water, it's definitely a lot cheaper, but it's a lot more inconvenient. So anyway, on my way back, I will answer at least the first couple questions. Number one, how long have you been a law enforcement officer? So I am completing my 13th year right now. I'll be starting year 14 here in January, so just in a couple months. Question two, hold on, driving a golf cart, reading, and blogging. Super, super safe. It's actually not really that bad, there's nobody out here. Anyway, what age did you know you wanted to become a police officer and what influenced you, to do it? So honestly, I was not one of those kids that, you know, ever since a little kid, like, oh, I want to be a cop or a firefighter or anything like that. I really never thought about that stuff. I want to say it was probably my junior year of high school. There was a girl who lived in my neighborhood that I gave a ride to school because I had a car. Her dad was a deputy. And so I would see his cruiser in the driveway every morning, and it like just kind of got me thinking about it. And I ended up having another friend at school that was in the Explorer program. And I didn't really know anything about that at the time, so I ended up joining that. I did that for like a year. And I know a lot of you guys have asked me about that. I'll get into that in a whole nother video. I have mixed feelings on the Explorer program. Anyway, so that's what got me interested in it originally, and when I started thinking about it, thought it would be fun. I kind of knew my personality at that point, at that age, and I knew I didn't want to sit in an office or in a cubicle for the rest of my career, and I thought it would be good. So that's what turned me on to it initially, where I started thinking about it. All right, we'll get into question three soon. All right, so the third question, what was your family life like growing up? It was good. It was good. There are no complaints. I basically grew up in a middle-class neighborhood. Both my mom was a stay-at-home mom, actually, for the bulk of my sister and I being raised. My dad had a corporate job. My mom was a teacher before she had us, and then actually later on, when I was probably in my senior year of high school, my mom went back to work full-time and actually started teaching again. I mean, it was like really cookie cutter, and I don't mean that in a bad way, obviously. It was great. Parents have always been very supportive in anything my sister or I have done. They basically have that mindset of they want us to be happy. They didn't care if we went to college, if we learned a trade, if whatever it may be, they wanted us to be happy. They wanted us to be just good people in general. I mean, like a lot of just your core value stuff that you get raised with, to be polite, be, you know, all that sort of stuff. So growing up, everything was real good. There was no complaints. So hopefully that answers that question. Number 4, why did you get into law enforcement? So that's kind of almost like that. I think it was question 2. You know, I knew my personality. I knew I didn't want to sit in an office because, unfortunately, because my dad had a corporate job. I went to his office. I saw what he did. You know, although it was a great living for our family, it was very mundane, very boring. You know, he sat in a cubicle. His career as an engineer. That's what, you know, he did. That's what he was good at. And I don't think he had any real complaints about it. But I knew I didn't want to do that. So that's what made me, after talking to that deputy in my neighborhood a few times and kind of hearing about what he did, and that's what really turned me on to it. And I thought it would just be a good fit for my personality. Oh, this is a workout in itself. All right, question number 5. From your personal knowledge, what is the difference between being an officer down south, Florida, versus up north? Personal knowledge wise, I don't have much. All I have is some of the recruits that I have trained who have come from agencies up north and have talked about it. The biggest difference that I have seen or that I have heard about is here in Florida, the sheriff's office has the same like patrol capabilities and duties and responsibilities as local PD officers do, where up north, not all, but predominantly the sheriff's office deputies are just in charge of the jails, the courthouses, serving civil warrants, things like that. Here, they have full road capabilities. They're in cruisers just like me, the whole 9 yards. And so that's the biggest difference that I know of. Outside of that, I mean, the job's kind of the job no matter where you go. Had recruits from up north that have just been at smaller agencies. And the only thing I've noticed that's different for that compared to us is their level of exposure. I trained a guy that had, I think, 13 years or something, you know, technically almost been a cop the same amount of time as me. However, his experience level would have been, honestly, maybe a 1 to 2 year officer in my area for what we have to deal with, the call volume we have to go to and things like that. So that's going to boil down depending on where you work up north. If it was just a small area, then you might not have some of the exposure that you'd have down here. I feel like a lot of Florida, especially the county that I work in, is the most densely populated county in all of Florida. So we have a lot of activity. There's a lot of stuff going on and you're busy a lot of the time. Alright, finally made it out on the water. I now have my camera woman behind the camera. We're going to head out and get some lunch. So on to question number 6. What advice would you give someone to pursuing a career in this field? So this is something I've talked about in several of my videos, and it's really not going to change at all from that. Probably my biggest piece of advice to somebody who is interested in this is to not rush it and to wait. I got into this field when I was 25 years old after owning my own business, having some life experience, and it was a very, very smooth process for me. I originally got started right out of high school at 18, 19 years old, started going to SPC, started taking the legal classes, and fortunately for me, I was able to realize at that point, I'm too young for this isn't for me, I'm just not ready for this. Moved on with my life, did a few other things, had a lot of experiences, and then went back to it with a better outlook on life, so to speak. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice to anybody who's interested in this is do not rush it. I recently went to a school where it talked about burnout rate of this career, and I can't quote the numbers exactly, but in a nutshell, it basically said back in, let's say the 1980s, the average burnout rate for an officer was 18 to 23 years. They started to get kind of tired of it. Then in the 90s, so on and so forth. Long story short, the most recent number said the average burnout rate for police officers nowadays is 1.5 to 2 years. So that goes to show you that something has changed along the way. People are getting fed up with this job. They're not ready for it, maybe because they're too young, and a couple years into it, they're like, I can't deal with this. And it's, you know, creating a lot of unhappy people in the profession. So there is no rush. I promise you, before you know it, you get into this job, 20 years will go by. Like I said, I'm already starting my 14th year, and it seems like yesterday that I was commuting every day to go to the police academy. So that would be my number one piece of advice. And then to follow that up, number two would basically be, if you want to get into this profession, because if anything that you've seen on TV, in a movie, or anything related to that, this job is not for you. This job, and you guys see it in the vlogs that I do, is your day-to-day routine is very mundane. Look, it can be fun and it's what you make of it, and that's what I tell my recruits, but you are not getting in pursuits, all right? You are not getting in gun battles, nor do you want to. And if you have that mentality, if that is something you're interested in and what you think this job is, then I would strongly suggest that you find a different career path, because that's not what this job's about. It's not what it should be about. And you're going to be very disappointed. You're going to go through a lot of work, a lot of effort in the academy to get out and find out you're going to barking dog calls and noise complaints and things like that. So obviously that's not a complete broad brush. Sure, if you want to go work in, you know, South Central LA, LAPD in a gang neighborhood, you could probably find some pretty crazy stuff going on. So unless you want to do that and you focus your direction to that, your average officer, it's not going to be anything like you see on TV or movies. So just be very aware of that. Number 7, what is my favorite part about the job? And that's going to have to do with the freedom that you have. When you are out on your own, after you get through all the training and field training and all that, and you're in a cruiser on your own, you're in a way like your own boss. You're out and about, you can do whatever you want. Now, mind you, if you're in regular patrol, you have to handle the calls for service that come out. But outside of that, if you want to go run some traffic, you can go run some traffic. If you want to drive this way, you drive this way. You want to drive that way, you drive that way. There is nobody telling you what you can or can't do during the day. You can cruise neighborhoods that you want. You need to run an errand. I gotta hit Walgreens, I'm running out of contact lens solution. I've done that, you know what I mean? There's a lot of versatility, and it's what you make of the job. That is my favorite part about it. There's something always going on. You're always out and about, you're outside, your office is your cruiser. It's got windows all the way around, so you can't find that in a lot of professions out there. So for me, that's probably one of my favorite things about the job, is just the versatility and how much you can do and see and have fun with. So we had a relatively successful day of boating. I actually did find a few more issues that now I have to deal with, so it's a never-ending story. Just had dinner, had some hibachi, and now Prego Pops here is eating some ice cream, and I tried some green apple Twizzlers. And they're not bad. So let's get into question number 8. What's your least favorite part about the job? I don't know. There's a lot. No, I'm kidding. I would probably have to say right now it's the negativity towards law enforcement. With social media and the way everything's going these days, anything that's done that appears negative or is negative gets completely blown out of proportion. It gives the profession a pretty big black eye. Now, some of these things are mistakes. People have, done things wrong, but what a lot of people don't realize is we're human beings, right? Sure, we have training in our job, we have experience with this stuff, but we're human. There's so many factors out there that people make mistakes, all right? And now I'm talking about simple mistakes, not somebody going out and beating somebody or doing anything blatantly wrong. That's a completely different category. There's no excuse for that, and it should be punished accordingly. But I'm saying when somebody makes a split-second decision, which we have to do all the time, and it may not have been what we thought initially or some other factors change, the law enforcement community seems to get just absolutely ridiculed nonstop for that. And it's frustrating doing the job because we know what we're doing. We know what we're having to deal with. And until you actually do this job, until you actually are faced with having to make the decisions that we make with the limited information that's given to us at times, and maybe not be right all of the time, and then to be ridiculed for it on top of that, that's a very difficult part now, because it's getting worse. It's getting progressively worse since when I started. So Right now, I would have to say that is probably my least favorite part of the job. Look, paperwork, it's part of it. You're going to have paperwork probably in any job you do. Dealing with unpleasant people, part of the job, not even really that big of a deal. You're going to deal with that anywhere you have customer service. I guess if the job means something to you, the negativity is harder, because like even since I've started doing this, obviously there's people that comment in the comment section and, you know, ridiculing different things or nitpicking things apart, and it's very frustrating because they're not the ones doing it. And I feel like some of the people who've picked apart little things in the videos, that they forget about the level of hypocrisy there is, because I would guarantee you some of these people have done the exact same things that they're ridiculing me for. So that becomes a point of contention or frustration, at least for me, and I think most would agree with that. Question number 9, are you hesitant to tell people that you are a police officer? Yes, sometimes. And I already know, I can see it coming. Somebody's gonna put in the comments, you're hesitant to tell people you're a cop, but yet you have a YouTube channel that you're putting out in front of the entire world. Yeah, you're right, I get it. But in reality, I am not recognized out. I've actually been recognized one time locally, but outside of that, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not recognized. People don't know where I live. I don't live in the city I work in. I don't even really live close to it. So it's easy to be unrecognizable, if that makes sense. And it's funny because Mike the Cop recently had a post on Instagram, and it had like 4 pictures, had a Thin Blue Line sticker, a Dodge pickup truck, and something else, and it said law enforcement starter kit. I found that extremely entertaining because it's so true. There's nothing about me that says cop. I don't have a single Thin Blue Line sticker on anything that I own. My wife doesn't have it on her car. I don't wear cop t-shirts. I don't wear anything law enforcement related. I basically do anything in my power to make myself not look like a cop. I'm not into that stuff personally. I mean, obviously I support it. I support the Brothers in Blue and things like that, but I'm not one of these people that you'll find wearing a law enforcement t-shirt, flag in my yard, sticker on my car, anything like that. So when I'm off duty, I'm off duty. I mean, look at me, you're more likely to find me in a Hawaiian shirt and shorts and flip-flops than anything else. So I kind of got off topic, but basically it's a 50-50 thing. It depends on what the situation is. So from doing what I do, I've gotten used to reading people. I've gotten better at it, let's say. So when I do things outside of work, it's just a case-by-case basis. I do, and I think a lot of you guys would know from some of my videos, I make a lot of Craigslist purchases. I make a lot of Craigslist sales. Facebook Marketplace now, I've just gotten into that. So depending on what I'm doing, like if I'm going out and I'm buying a tool from somebody, let's say, and depending on where that person lives, maybe depending on how they are, no, I don't tell them I'm a cop. There's no reason to. And it's come up, oh, what are you using this for? I, tell people I work at Home Depot, something like that. Or I work for myself. Being the fact that I used to do the signs and graphics, that's an easy one, because if anybody asks me about it, I can like literally go into detail because I did it for a living. So I'll just say I own my own business. I do signs and vinyl graphics, stuff like that. But, in other cases, when I meet really down-to-earth, normal people, especially when I bought some of the camera equipment like this, you have a common ground. You're going to start talking about those things. And then, sure, my YouTube channel comes up. So if I talk about something like that and these people are going to potentially find out or see it anyway, then I'm not going to lie to their face, because then I just look like a complete idiot afterwards. And they look up my channel and they're like, well, this guy's a cop and you just told me he works at Home Depot. It doesn't make any sense. So that is something, it is case by case, and I definitely take the time to feel out a situation, feel out a person, and read them before I decide whether I'm going to share that information or not. All right, number 10, how do you balance the stressors of work with your family life, and how do you keep them from not interfering with one another? What do you think? Basically, I don't bring it home with me.
Yeah, you really don't talk about it unless
Yeah.
it's funny or it's like important to share because it's going to affect us.
Yeah, and I don't not tell her things because like I don't want to, or like, oh, it's gonna, I mean, we have very good communication and we share a lot of stories with each other. So like she said, if it's something funny, if I can come home, or even just like a wild story, just something like a can you believe this kind of thing, I'll tell those stories. But if I go to a call that's, gruesome or something, I don't come home and just start telling stories like, oh my God, guess what I saw today. But there's just no reason to. And we can talk about that stuff. It's not, she doesn't get grossed out by it. It's not anything like that. But I don't volunteer it if there's really no reason to bring it up. Kind of like the previous question. When I'm off duty, I'm off duty. I don't do anything cop related when I'm outside of work. And like even friends wise, I have a very close knit group of friends from work that I will hang out with outside of work. The majority of my friends that I hang out with outside of work are just normal people, civilians, whatever you want to call them, right? They're not cops. Basically, I don't bring the job home with me. I use my training and I use all of that sort of stuff when we're out together. We even talk about it. We both carry guns when we're out. You know, we make sure one of us has one, or we know where the other one's is in case something went bad, you know. Like, I'm prepared. I have the mindset, but I don't walk around looking over my shoulder or doing anything crazy. So it's just, for me, and it's very easy for me to do this, and it's not for everybody, but there is a huge separation between work and my personal life, and that's why it doesn't really affect us. I don't let it get to me. There's guys at work that are disgruntled, that they let the job get to them, things that are annoying, frustrating, because there's every day I go to work, there is something that annoys me, plain and simple. You just can't get around it. There again, I will either make a joke about that situation, or I just say it is what it is, and that's it, you know. And I don't bring that home. I don't complain to her. I don't bitch to her, and it keeps that huge separation. So that's how I handle that. So it has never been an issue. Has it ever been an issue? No, I've never. No stressors at home from work. So.
Asian lady wants to sell you. I think she's giving massage or something.
Who? What? The Asian massage place is freaked out that I have a camera out here, I think. Like a sting operation.
Or you're just being loud. I think this is one of their rooms.
I don't care. It's a free country. Okay, my friends, it is the next day. I have 2 questions left for you. Question number 11. Is there anything you would go back and change reflecting back on your law enforcement career? I've thought about that question. I saw it the other day. To be honest with you, no. Here's why I say that. Not to get too cheesy with you guys, but as I've gotten older and from a few of the things that have happened in my life over the course of time, I've kind of adopted the everything happens for a reason mentality. I think that's really true if you look back on stuff. If you were to think about how each thing in your life fell into place to add up to where you currently are at whatever point in time you're having that thought, I think you will find that everything had to happen exactly the way it happened at the time it happened, for everything to be exactly the way it is today. And I know you could do the what if, or what if, you know, you could change this, but the rest of this stayed the same. And that's such a hard thing to try and predict. So I'd have to say no overall. And that goes back to what I had said about waiting a little bit longer to get into this career. That happened for me kind of by accident in a way. So I had gotten into this at 19, right out of high school type of thing, maybe hired on with the department by 2021. I was a totally different person at that age and the life experiences I had compared to when I got hired when I started. I was actually almost 26. So who knows how this job would have worked out for me. I may not have even made it through the field training program. I might have, become disgruntled 5 years in and said, F this and quit, So for me, everything happened, I feel like the way it should happen, and I'm happy with the way it happened. It's put me where I am today, doing everything I'm doing, having the things I have, having the experiences I have, and being able to share some of those with you, especially the younger viewers and everything. If anything I can tell you helps or eases your mind stress, because I know how big a deal it is when you're getting out of college and like, I got to get a job, I got to start my career, and I get it. I'm not trying to belittle any of that. So if anything that I've been able to say along the way has helped anybody with that, then I am grateful for it. So the final question on this sheet, number 12, any additional information you would like to provide or comments? Like, comment, and subscribe. In all seriousness, no, some of this stuff I've covered in other videos. Some of it was brand new, so hopefully you guys got something out of it. I appreciate you bearing with me for a little bit of a different video like this. Hopefully you enjoyed it, learned something, and Rachel, I hope it helped you with your project. So here's your interview. Seriously, guys, I am working on a patrol vlog now. I got to get a little bit more footage to get everything, nice and seamless. I'll have that out for you soon. I am working on it, so it's coming soon. Thanks for bearing with me. On that video, I think, is when we're gonna do the giveaway for that med bag. So if you have not heard about that, if you have not entered for that, 2 videos ago, go watch that. It's a patrol vlog, and in there, I give instructions on how to win. It's like $139, $140 full med kit bag from Galls. All the links are in the description of that video. There's still time to enter. I think there's a week left. Today is the 12th. I think we got a week and a half. Sign up for that. If you haven't, follow me on Instagram. All the links will be in here below. I have in between and up-to-date footage, funny stories, different things, and also keep you up to date on when the new videos are coming out. So guys, until the next time, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.